We need the moratorium on evictions to happen today. Every single day that we wait, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are receiving eviction notices, and some of them are being put out on the street. We cannot continue to sit back and play with what can or what cannot happen, when something could happen. We need this done today. People's lives depend on it.
All right, that was Congresswoman Bush's protest on the steps of the Capitol, which saved countless Americans from eviction when the Biden administration agreed to extend a federal moratorium on evictions into October. And this was despite President Biden's own reservations about the legality of such a move. Well,
I can't guarantee you the court won't rule that we don't have that authority. But at least we'll have the ability to, if we have to appeal, to keep this going for a month. At least, I hope longer.
The Supreme Court has now had its say, and on Thursday struck down the moratorium, effective immediately. And that move put millions of people at risk of being thrown out on the streets. Joining me now is Congresswoman Cori Bush, a Democrat from Missouri, who I'm honored to have join me on this show. Congresswoman Bush, first of all, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you did on the steps of the Capitol. This is devastating, what happened in the Supreme Court, and now this has essentially been punted back to Congress to deal with. And so as millions of people are hanging in the balance, their lives, their livelihoods, children, pets even, what does this mean? What's the plan? And can Congress stop this from happening with such opposition from the Republican Party?
You know, I think looking at the humanity, when, I'm just urging our colleagues to reflect on the humanity of every single one of their unhoused neighbors, or soon to be unhoused neighbors, and support a legislative solution to this eviction crisis, wondering who should do what and when we should do it. Right now, we have to remember that the pandemic isn't over. The jobs crisis isn't over. The health crisis isn't over. Before this pandemic started, we already had a housing crisis. We can't make it even worse right now in the middle of a deadly global pandemic. And I am appalled that the Supreme Court would rule in this way and say, yeah, okay, 11 million hit the streets, even though we know that, we have people who are already on the street that we haven't been able to help. It's okay to send 11 million more.
Yeah, this is devastating. At the conservative court, the three liberal judges dissented, obviously. This is no easy feat, though. So, you are facing an uphill battle in Congress. There is staunch Republican opposition. But something interesting that I find about this story, housing and real estate industry groups spent more than $100 million lobbying Congress the past year and a half in the White House and worked to extend the COVID moratorium that these groups hope to stop. So essentially, you had this group of people saying, no, we want the moratorium to end. What impact did that have on the Republican opposition saying, basically, we don't care?
We have some people in Congress who care about their big donors, and I'm not Republicans and Democrats, and then we also have some who first care about their community members in their districts and the people that live in those districts. And for me, my office says, we want to do the absolute most for everyone in our district, starting with those who have the very least. And so I don't understand people who don't feel that way. I don't understand why we signed up to run for Congress, to sit in a seat where we don't make sure that all of the people in our communities have the resources and the access they need. And so I think that as we're looking at what happened with the Republicans, I'm also looking at what's happening with our Democrats, because we can get this done. We need Congress to legislate a full eviction moratorium that'll keep people in their homes, automatic and that don't require a declaration form, and one that will cover all evictions and not just those that are related to rent. When I understand our landlords are saying, hey, we need this money. And I know that was some of the push for the Republicans. We get that, but we're trying to give the money. We need to disperse these funds. That $46.5 billion, that $46.5 billion, it has to get into the hands of the people and give us the opportunity to get that done.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been a huge issue, actually getting the money to the hands of the people. So of that $46.5 billion you talked about, only $4.7 billion has actually reached the hands of the people who most need it. There's a digital divide. There's this thicket of paperwork. There's a lot of bureaucracy at the state and local levels. And look, I just want to make the point, all of these people who need it are not Democratic voters. These do impact people in the Republican base. So how do we fix the bottleneck to get this money in the hands of the people who need it?
Yeah, so one thing that first of all, my office is working, we've been talking with leadership in the House, we've been talking with Chairwoman Maxine Waters, trying to figure out all the avenues that we can do, and one of them is working on another way to handle disbursement. In my community in Missouri's 1st District, what we've been able to do is part of our district set up clinics within all of our St. Louis public libraries, county libraries, to make sure that people have access in their communities. So that's one way. But streamlining this process is something that we have to do, and we have to figure it out. And it can be done. As soon as we finish with the protests on the steps, our communities organize differently, set up a better structure, and that money has started to flow out. It's not rocket science. It's just getting volunteers, getting more help, making sure that people get what they need. And let me just say this, to the American people right now who are facing eviction, let me just say, it's a travesty and it's a political failure what is happening to you right now. I know what you're living through. I understand that moment by moment feeling, what those thoughts are like. I know that fear of uncertainty, and I know that fear of who speaks for me in this moment. Well, let me say this. Congresswoman Cori Bush is speaking for you. I won't rest. My team won't rest. And those that we're working with in Congress, we won't rest until we make sure that you have a safety in your homes. It's not okay. It's unjust and it's unfair what's happening to you.
It is indeed unjust, Congresswoman, and I just also want to point out, even outside of this eviction moratorium, in no state, metropolitan area, or county in America can a worker earning the federal or prevailing state minimum wage afford a modest 2-bedroom rental home at a fair market. So this is a really challenging legislative situation that you have taken on, and thank you for it. So thank you so much, Congresswoman. You're welcome here anytime. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for being